It is the weekend of Stagecoach, and you know what that means for Bachelor Nation. Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. We are here to break down the biggest Bachelor Nation headlines of the week. But before we get into it, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on any future videos. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Gianna Gravelese and our new host, Blakely McHugh. Blakely, welcome to our team here at Shared News. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So yeah, a little bit about me. I went to school, or I'm from San Diego, I should say, went to school at Arizona State, got my degree in broadcast journalism. I've actually worked in local TV news as a morning anchor for the last almost 4 years. Left that at the beginning of the year because 2022 is my year for saying yes to new opportunities and arrived here.
Yay, welcome. And you've obviously watched The Bachelor, right? I just got to ask.
Obviously, who's not watching The Bachelor?
Exactly. Gianna, how are you doing?
I am doing great. It is Friday, so nothing to complain about.
Perfect. I mean, I agree. It's the weekend. And I mean, I have to tell you guys, I went to Bachelor live on stage last night, so I have to tell everybody a little bit about it. It was basically like a season of The Bachelor on stage in like 2 hours. So they picked 10 girls that they actually picked before the show started. So like if you wanted to be on the live on stage, you had to like show up early. So they picked like 10 girls before the show, and then they went on stage. They all came out of limos, and then James narrowed them down throughout the show. They went on different like group dates and stuff, rose ceremonies, and then he ended up picking like the mom at the end. Like there was all these young girls in their 20s, and he ended up giving his final rose to the mom. So, I mean, it was a really cool experience, and I think that it was a little rehearsed. I feel like it would have been more fun if Becca and James were more like bold and out there and like, you know, told more jokes. But overall, I think it was a cool experience. Did you guys go to a Bachelor live on stage, or like, what do you guys think about that?
I am so glad that you went because I have been so curious about how Bachelor live on stage works. I have never been to one ever. There was just one in Boston, but I couldn't go, unfortunately. It sounds like a good time. Like, I'm kind of jealous. And Zach, I wish you were up on that stage. Like, how did you not get a rose?
Literally. I thought about like going early to go on stage, but I really wanted to record a lot of it and like kind of like have fun in the audience and stuff. It felt like a lot of pressure, but once the show started, I was like, damn it, I should have found my way up there because I would have got James's final rose. And I got it anyway. Like we talked after the show.
And I'm so jealous because I actually have like a really big secret crush on James, and all of my friends have been like, you need to go to the live event because you would meet James and it would be love at first sight. I mean, at least that's what I think. So I'm like super jealous that you actually got to go, and all the girls who got to go on the group dates. So cool. And we need to know like who was there.
Yeah, so from Bachelor Nation, there was Becca, Thomas, Rodney, Genevieve, Kate, and Kendall was there with her new boyfriend. And Kendall was really cool. And she actually spilled a little bit of tea for me, which I'm going to share because I remember when we were talking about Bachelor in Paradise, Gianna, remember last summer, we were giving Kendall the hardest time ever for crashing the proposal, being all about Joe. It was just like, Kendall was just like, we could not with her. So I had to ask her, like point blank, period, why did you crash the proposal between Joe and Serena? And basically what she said is that when she walked back on the beach in Bachelor in Paradise, she had no idea that she was crashing Joe's proposal. She didn't even know it was proposal day. As far as she knew, they were all still there. And I guess they were just bringing her back on the show. She was completely lied to by producers. And then once she was on the beach, she kind of had to go along with it. And yeah, they just didn't tell her what was happening. So, I mean, like, Gianna, does that make you look at Kendall in a different light? Because we were really going through scenarios where we're like, did she get paid for this? Like, it was just so confusing.
Wow. This is our public apology to Kendall. I mean, Zach, like you said, you and I were giving her a really hard time last year, just being like, why did she do that? Like, how could she ever do that? That's pathetic. Like, go home. So I'm sorry. This definitely does make me look at her in a different light. And I feel a little stupid because we shouldn't even be surprised that the producers lied to her. We know that they are so manipulative. We know that they do things like this behind the scenes, and proof is in the pudding. You heard it from Kendall's mouth yourself, you're a firsthand witness. So it's like, I genuinely feel bad for her. But I mean, it's been a year. She's moved on. She has a new boyfriend. So I'm glad that she's at least thriving now, and like she didn't get too much heat, or wasn't as affected from our heat as she should have been. Yeah, that's just literally insane to me. But again, no surprise there. We know that these producers love to twist things and turn things and lie just for the ratings. And I know that that was a huge moment that was teased throughout the season as well. So it was smart on their part because it had us all talking clearly, but it's obviously detrimental for Kendall because she was put in a bad spot. So I'm glad that her truth is finally coming out, and maybe all of us can take this information and learn from it. And when we watch Paradise this coming year, and if we start to rash on people for their decisions, let's give them a little bit of slack, because we got to remember they're probably puppets in this big puppeteering that we call Bachelor Nation producers.
Yeah, you know, it has been a few years for Kendall. Like, she was on like Ari's season a long time ago. She did Paradise. So I think she had some pretty thick skin like going into it. But it really shows there's three sides to every story. So I'm glad that that question was finally answered. I did talk to Genevieve a little bit. And of course, I got pretty drunk last night, so I can't remember all of the tea. But of course, I had to bring up Aaron in some regards. He did not end up coming to the show, which was so disappointing because James and him are best friends. But I'm wondering, Blakely, do you think it would be a good idea for Genevieve to pursue Aaron in Paradise this summer? Or do you think because like there's already so much talk around them, it's probably better for her to go for someone else?
Oh gosh, that's such a good question. I feel like there's like two ways you could go with it. You know, people are already talking about it, so might as well, you know, lean into it and go for it. I mean, she was saying they were friends and they were sitting next to each other at the, what was it? The final rose, right? Yeah, they were sitting next to each other. So they already obviously have some chemistry or a friendship there, which is always a great, you know, building block for a good relationship. I mean, I say, hey, go for it. People are already talking about it, so might as well blow it up. Get yourself, you know, maybe a good relationship. Get yourself talked about a little bit. Nothing wrong with that, right?
Yeah, I just gave her advice. I said, I don't want you to get the Brendan and Piper edit if you go for Aaron. Because we really don't know how the producers are going to edit the show, and like they could make anything out of anything they want. So I think it's a little risky for her to go for Aaron, even though a lot of us want to see it. So I guess she'll just have to feel things out on the beach if they both end up being there. And we got to transition from the beach to the desert because Stagecoach is happening this weekend. And if you don't know what Stagecoach is, I mean, it's the melting pot for Bachelor Nation. It's a country music festival that takes place in Coachella. It's a 3-day event, and a lot of people from Bachelor Nation attend every year. It became a big thing and a huge scandal on Bachelor in Paradise Season 6 when Blake Horstman was hooking up with both Kristina Schulman and Caelynn back-to-back nights at the festival. It became a whole joke in Bachelor Nation, and Blake got a lot of backlash from that at the time. However, he was able to turn it around a couple years later, and now he is headlining and DJing this year at Stagecoach. He has a whole set, and there's going to be a lot of people from Bachelor Nation that are going to be there, and some of them have already gotten there. Blake has a house, and Abigail and Noah are there. Elise, Justin, and Mikey, Katie and John are going, as well as a lot of the girls from Clayton's season, Sally, Cassidy, and Genevieve is going as well, and probably a lot more that we'll find out over the weekend when everyone starts posting pictures. I mean, Gianna, are you ready for Stagecoach Part 2? Do you think there's going to be a lot of hookups, or do you think people have learned their lessons from watching Blake?
I am not ready because I'm still trying to decompress from all the Coachella posts, and I'm just fingers crossed that the Stagecoach outfits are nothing like the Coachella outfits this year, because I truly was disappointed and disgusted. So I want to see some cute cowboy outfits, but not too over the top. And I really have faith in this group of people that are going for their sense of fashion, to be honest with you. Just the people that you mentioned right off the bat. I'm like, okay, I know they're going to look good. They're going to set the bar high.
Question mark?
Oh, drag! Yikes!
Okay.
I might have more faith in John than Katie, to be honest with you. I feel like Katie's gonna wear the red bandana around her neck and look like Woody. I'm sorry. I hope she doesn't watch this. I love her. But
She's not watching
I
this.
you never know. You never know. I truly think that people should have learned their lesson from the whole Blake Horstman scandal. I mean, I get it. Like, I've been to festivals, I've been to clubs. Sometimes you want to just like make out with somebody next to you if you're feeling it. That's totally fine. Just don't do it with multiple and different people, especially if you're a public figure, because as we've seen, you're going to get seen, you're going to be talked about, and it's just going to be a bad look. I mean, a lot of these people are couples. I mean, we have Abigail and Noah, Katie and John. So maybe it'll be more low key. But yeah, I mean, maybe there will be a few hookups. I mean, am I wrong? Who knows?
Well, all of the girls are going to be there from Clayton's season, like literally all of them. And I'm assuming a lot of the guys will be there from Michelle's season as well. I just don't keep tabs on them as much. And some of the guys from, I mean, Katie's season, I'm sure. I mean, I think there's bound to be a few hookups. I mean, Blakely, have you ever been to Stagecoach? And I mean, what do you think will go down?
I've never been to Stagecoach. I have been to Coachella, though. Obviously, a little bit different vibes, but I still feel like you're getting drunk and you're with big groups of people and things happen. I feel like big lessons were learned from a couple of years ago with Blake. Like, maybe don't be hooking up with multiple people and then go on, you know, a Bachelor in Paradise right afterwards, because obviously that's going to come up. But there's going to be hookups, no doubt. So, but the difference too, I feel like, is at least there's been a lot more live events recently where the groups are getting together. So it's not like this is the first event that they're having together. So I definitely think that that's going to happen. Anytime you mix alcohol and festivals, things go down, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I think there's a lot more like events and connections in Bachelor Nation. So it might not be as taboo to like hang out and possibly hook up before Paradise. It was definitely very like, you know, judged and like, how dare you, you know, a couple years ago. But I think going into this season, there's just so much intertwingling already. So, I mean, I think everyone should just go for it, especially if you want to secure your spot on that beach, because there are some people who are probably like up in the air. You know, a few of the girls sometimes get brought to Mexico and then never make it onto the beach. So it might even be smart for them to actually hook up with a guy just to kind of get themselves relevant if they're a night one or an early girl from Clayton's season. So, I mean, that's just what I would recommend. I would put yourself out there. But let's move on to Matt James, because he has a new book coming out, First Impressions, which is hitting bookstores May 3rd. You know, Matt has been doing press all week long during this week to promote his new book. And one of the main things he mentioned is that he and Rachael actually left after the final rose together, hand in hand that night, but it wasn't shown. I mean, Gianna, can you kind of take us back and remind everyone about that night and the whole Rachael situation? Does this surprise you that they left hand in hand?
Yeah, I am shocked because it was a really dramatic after the final rose. You know, they obviously brought up the whole scandal with Rachael's racially insensitive past and posts that were brought up while Matt's season was still on our screens. And it seemed like the way it was edited that they, you know, Matt broke up with her and like left her on the couch right then and there. So it was really shocking. And we were all like, oh my God, like they literally broke up. He didn't take her back. And Rachael got a lot more backlash. You know, after the final rose, she did apologize for what she did, but because Matt left her, it was just like, like you get what you deserve. And people were like so hostile toward her even after the fact. And I really think ABC didn't want to show them leaving hand in hand because they would have received a lot of backlash as a couple together, and the network and the show itself. And they weren't, I mean, you got to remember when this was going down, people were not only coming for Rachael, they were coming for the franchise, saying, you know, how could you not screen these people? You're not even inclusive as it is. Maybe the franchise is racist. You don't have any people of color as leads, this, that, the other. So they've come a long way since then. And I think them editing them walking out hand in hand was to cover their own behinds, to be honest with you. So I'm not too surprised, but I kind of wish they just let it go, because Matt and Rachael are together now. They're cuter than ever. We all love them at this point. Like, we've all moved on from the situation. And if we saw that firsthand, I think the more mature part of Bachelor Nation would have been like, oh, okay, it's fine. And they would have been more forgiving, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I just like specifically remember Matt being like, I can't take you back until you do the work. And then he left the show with her hand in hand that night. So I'm excited to read his book to see what we're missing. Obviously, they're so happy and in love now.
I was also surprised to hear that they left hand in hand because I feel like when we were watching them together, Matt just seemed very cold to Rachael. Like they were not sitting next to each other. They weren't touching each other. Like there was like an awkward space between them. So I was actually really shocked to hear that like immediately they left together afterwards. And I may have a little bit of an unpopular opinion, but I really feel like Rachael is too good for Matt because I feel like in that moment, if you love somebody, and even though they mess up, if you love somebody, you support them. You know, you don't leave. I felt like she was left high and dry. Obviously, we don't know the inner workings of their relationship. We don't, we're just a viewer. But I felt like she was left out on her own. He was like, she needs to do the work. Like, you can be a supportive partner and guide her through that, especially when she's at like her lowest of lows. And then, you're there on after the final rose. That's what it was, right? And she's just by herself. There's no support. So that actually really upset me that she was totally left on her own. And I feel like she could do a lot better.
Ooh, that is a hot take. I think Matt probably just felt a lot of pressure in that moment as like the first Black Bachelor. And then we have this like racial insensitive past of Rachael Carcano. I really feel like in that moment, and I guess in the show's moment too, since they left hand in hand, stick to the script, I think they really just wanted to kind of make an example out of Rachael. And that was kind of what was shown on TV. So I feel like Matt really does support Rachael though behind the scenes, and he did take her back and he did help her. And I'm excited to hear more about their journey in the book. I mean, Blakely, do you think he's going to tell Rachael's story? Because he has to tell his own, but it's like Rachael has this whole past too. So it's like, it's not like she's writing her own book.
I feel like based off of how he's acted this whole time, he's always allowed Rachael to explain for herself or do her own work. So I don't feel like he would explain her story because it's not his to share, because how's he going to understand from her perspective? It's completely different. I'm sure he will share how it impacted him, his dynamic, their relationship, and obviously the pressures of being the first Black Bachelor on The Bachelor, So I think that it'll probably go into more of him and how it impacted him. I feel like that Rachael has to at some point come out with her own expose, if you will, on her thoughts and what happened in the past.
Yeah, and Rachael's, super active on Instagram, so I wouldn't be surprised if she started her own YouTube channel whenever her contract is up. A fun fact, they don't really let you start like YouTube channels and like monetize off your content for like a year or two, so it might take a minute for Rachael before she's able to do that, but I could totally see her doing that and kind of, letting people in and get to know her. I do think it would be beneficial for her to do a podcast and kind of explain her side of the story, especially with Matt's book coming out right now. But once I read it, because obviously I'll read the whole thing start to finish for you guys, I will be able to kind of, share what he says, because I don't really know. And Gianna, obviously you're not going to read it because you're not the biggest reader. So what do you want to know? Like, because I'll be checking it out. What do you want to know from Matt's book?
Well, Zach, I read, but I read fiction books. I love books about murder, and ghosts, and love, and things like that.
I apologize.
It's okay. It's totally fine. But I always know I can rely on you to read these books. But I really am looking forward to seeing what he has to say about that situation specifically, because it truly, again, it rocked Bachelor Nation and it rocked the franchise. I mean, we've seen so much progression too since then. I feel like, the franchise is working harder to be more inclusive. And I feel like it's because of that whole thing. So I want to know if and I also want to know about the time that he went ghost and cleared his whole Instagram. And we thought that he wanted nothing to do with the franchise ever again. So I just want to know the little bits and pieces of the things that we used to talk about months and months ago that we were just wondering like why and what's going on. And yeah, I kind of hope that, and the beard. Christmas beard.
Mhm.
Why were you kissing with your eyes open? Let's get all of these questions answered once and for all. So be on the lookout for that video recap of Matt's book here on Shared News eventually.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna read it in like a day or two because everyone's gonna want to know and not everyone's gonna want to read it. So, of course, I'll take one for the team because I read all the Bachelor books. Now, speaking of Matt James, his BFF Tyler Cameron, we got some tea about him recently. Now, we just saw him on Keeping Up with the Kardashians on Hulu, or The Kardashians on Hulu. But Mike Johnson actually did an interview on She's All Batch, a popular Bachelor podcast, and he shared about why he never became the Bachelor, and he shared why Tyler never was the Bachelor. And Tyler was asked to do the Bachelor but turned it down because he already had the followers and the money and didn't want to share his personal life. Now, obviously, there are two big fan favorites. Blakely, who would have you liked to see be the Bachelor, Mike or Tyler?
Oh, I loved them both so much. That's a hard question. I think I would have loved to see Tyler specifically because he's my type. So, like I'd be swooning after him if I was one of his contestants. But it doesn't surprise me that he turned it down. I mean, he's already got women drooling after him. He had Gigi Hadid. Why does he need, 30 randos coming in vying for his love? He's making out with Kristen Cavallari. Like, he doesn't need the franchise any longer. He's got it all himself,
Oh yeah, absolutely. But maybe in a few years when his career like goes down a little bit, if it does, if he can't keep himself relevant, then I feel like he would do it. So we'll see. But Blakely, who are some of your favorites from Bachelor Nation since you're new here? We need to know your taste.
Oh, great question. I should have prepared for this. Okay. Are you asking me the men that I like or just in general my favorites?
Couples, bachelorettes, bachelor contestants, anyone.
Okay. I loved Becca Kufrin. I loved her season. I loved when she was on Paradise. I will say I was one of the people that was a little confused / iffy about her showing up. But then she totally sold me and I loved her. And I almost think, that the franchise goes a little too young with the women who come on. So it was kind of nice to have, I don't want to call her old because she's not old, but you know what I mean?
Someone in their 30s.
Exactly. So it was nice to have that fresh perspective. You obviously know I love James. And I love Aaron too. Like I loved their friendship. Did I say Hannah Brown? I loved her. And I just felt like she did her, I feel like she just did her thing. She didn't stick to the script like Matt James felt like he had to do, And who, of course,
what
Hannah.
Did you think of?
Go ahead.
Oh, true. What did you think of Claire Crawley?
Oh, she was a mess. I mean, she gave us a lot. Yeah, she gave us a lot in this short period of time. I feel a little bad for her. She really wants love, and I want her to have love. I love love, so I'm sad that it didn't work out for her. But sometimes 2 weeks is just not enough time to know who your soulmate is. I don't know.
I don't even think it was 2 weeks. I think it was 6 days. And I agree. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see her again on our screens. I mean, she just popped up for Clayton's finale. She just won't go away. And I mean, we have to talk about this because The Bachelor is celebrating 20 years of the franchise. So The Bachelor first premiered 20 years ago in 2002. There's been 26 seasons of The Bachelor, 19 seasons of The Bachelorette, 8 seasons of Paradise, and numerous spin-off shows like Winter Games, Listen to Your Heart, Bachelor Pad, and so much more. Mike Darnell, the president of Warner Brothers Unscripted Television, sat down with Variety and said the reason why The Bachelor is still on after all these years, he says, this is one of the few shows in the world, not just in this country, that has resonated for so long, but more importantly, is still relevant. There are shows that have been on for a long time, but they have lost their relevance. And Robert Mills, the executive vice president of the unscripted and alternative entertainment at Walt Disney Television, chimed in and said, at the end of the day, everything about the show and why it works is relatable. Everybody wants to find love, and everyone has their heart broken like they see people on the screen. So Gianna, are you surprised that it's lasted this long? And maybe share one of your favorite moments from the past however many years you've been watching.
Oh boy. I am a little surprised that it has lasted this long, just because, especially in the last couple of years, how much we've learned about what actually goes on behind the scenes. And as we said earlier, how manipulative the producers are. It's like, we're not stupid at this point. Like, The Bachelor, Bachelorette are practically scripted. They're sticking to the script. It's basically planned out at this point. Producers are, like I said earlier, puppeteering these people to do XYZ. And we're just getting entertained from like how these people are getting manipulated. So I think it's kind of bad in that sense. And I'm surprised not more people are revolting. I mean, I didn't watch back in 2002. I was just a baby, but I think it's so much more different now than it was back then. And I think it's just like, on one hand, there's a loyalty. We know that Bachelor Nation fans are like the most loyal, the most psychotic. We will find things out in 2 seconds. And it would be kind of hard to get mad and completely stop watching. I know that they had a drop off of fans when Chris Harrison was no longer the host. But that wasn't even enough to really make the ratings, tank. They're still up there. People are still watching. Paradise this past year was one of the most popular seasons, and actually one of my favorite seasons. So that has to be one of my favorite moments in this franchise. I just loved Paradise. I love the fact that it was so successful. I love the couples that came out of it. And yeah, so although I am surprised that it's been around kicking, I could totally understand why it's been that way. And I think that it's gonna just keep on trucking for another 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, this word he said, relevant, kind of makes a lot of sense to me, because even though the ratings have gone down and there's less people watching, people are still invested. They still, watch the recaps and they still want to know what's going on. They read the articles. They might not watch every episode, but they like to have a general gist of what's happening. And that's kind of what we do here. We keep you guys updated. So it really is such an ingrained part in pop culture that I think The Bachelor is going to go on for a really long time. But I do feel like they're going to have to figure out, this whole like producer thing, because we're so on to them and everyone sees through the BS now. And everyone sees through the relationships that are happened before the show. So I just feel like they're going to have to either figure that out so it's not as inauthentic at times, or they're just going to have to, do a different spinoff show. And we're going to get into that in a second. But Blakely, I want to hear, like, how long do you think the show will go on? Or what would you like to see change?
Oh gosh, I have no idea how. I mean, I think it'll go on for years and years on end. But I think what they need to do in order for it to stay, like you said, as relevant and keeping the ratings up, is I feel like listen to the viewers a little bit more. How often do we say we want to see those funny blooper moments, when they're showing it, when it's like the women or the men tell all and they show those behind the scenes, or the different, like, their eating conversations, so much of what they show the viewers is what's controlled. And I feel like at least over the last couple of years, we've all been saying we want to see these more authentic, genuine moments. We want to see these conversations, or the, when they slip and fall, and it's funny and it's natural and it feels real. And so I think that they need to add in more of those real elements that will make it more for the viewer that they can connect with. And I think that that's what will kind of maybe keep them new and fresh, because I also feel like we're kind of getting over the drama. Like, we love the drama, right? It brings so much. That's what keeps you tuned in. But at the same time, it gets to be a little much. It feels a little catty, a little petty, like a little bit is great. But I feel like a lot of what people are commenting back is like, ugh, there's just so much drama all the time. Like, let's just get maybe a little bit less of that and then add in some more realness. And I feel like that will help them for the years to come.
Yeah, I think a lot of people agree with you about like wanting to see more love stories. I mean, you guys know I live for the drama, so I personally have no complaints in that department. Keep it coming. But I definitely think there is a large group of fans that want to see more authentic moments, and I want to see more authentic drama. But what is next for the Bachelor franchise? Well, The Bachelor is not going to be heading to a streaming service like many other major shows, including Dancing with the Stars. The brand is so strong, it could probably live everywhere. But one of the few things that works well is broadcast TV, and spin-offs are constantly in development. The Senior Citizen show is still on deck, which means it should be happening. And they also teased a dream project saying that there could be a Bachelor the Musical, but it's just an idea. Which I thought The Bachelor Live on Stage originally was before I went to the show. I thought it was going to be like a musical. I was like, oh, there's going to be singing, dancing. Is this a talent show? So I think that they should do that with The Bachelor Live on Stage. Maybe make it like a musical and actually hire like professional like actors and hosts and people instead of like contestants. I do like the idea that they did, but I think that could be cool. They could take it to Broadway. And what do you guys want to see? I mean, are you excited about the Senior Citizen show, or what other spin-off shows do you guys want to see for the franchise?
Oh, I love the Senior Citizen show, but we've talked about this in other videos. I just worry about like the safety of these people. Again, the regular young contestants now are getting manipulated and borderline tormented by producers. It's like, how are you gonna tell an elderly person like, oh, go cause drama over here, go do this, like whatever. So I would love for it to happen, but like I'm a very like protect everyone's grandma and grandpa at all costs type of person. Like I just picture my own grandparents and I'm like, I would swing if somebody like tried to do them dirty. So they would definitely have to work on the ethics for that. There would need to be like a safety like supervisor. There would need to be like all sorts of supervisors on set. So maybe that's why it's still on deck. But I would love for it to happen. And in terms of The Bachelor, the musical, I mean, you are talking to someone that loves musicals. I mean, Zach, we know that you were a musical kid. We know that I was a musical gal. Blakely, I don't know your musical past history, but I feel like if that were to happen, we would all need to be in the musical. Like I would want to play somebody. Like I feel like I'd want to play the villain and have the villain ballad, you know, like just screaming my lungs at the top of my lungs about like ruining a relationship and getting the guy. Like I can just see it now. It could be this whole, I mean, we got to remember that viral TikTok trend of getting Ratatouille to be a musical actually ended up happening. So this is like not far from being realistic at all. So I am for The Bachelor, the musical.
So do we think, like, how would that work? Is it the previous contestants and the bachelors and bachelorettes that are now performing and singing and dancing and doing the musical? Is that
I don't
how
think
we're
so.
thinking?
I think we need, unless they're actual actors like Greg is, I think that we need like legit like performers. Because to be completely honest, like after watching The Bachelor Live on Stage, like I love Becca and I love James, but I didn't necessarily feel like they were performers. I felt like they were kind of sticking to the routine of the show. So I think they should honestly pick it up by Broadway and do like a collaboration and get like legit professionals.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we could also have Jed be like guitar, do some vocals in the background, right? But okay, so I like that idea much better. For some reason, my mind was going to like the contestants would be in the musical, and I was like, I'm totally not for that. But this idea I like a lot better. Having actual like Broadway people performing would be so much better. When it comes to the senior show, I mean, I feel like everybody loves old people, right? Who doesn't love old people falling in love? So I could see it being successful for maybe like a year or two, but I just don't imagine, you know, a lot of people obviously connect with the drama. I know I was talking about the drama earlier, but you still have to add that element. And I don't see that being there. And their audiences, I mean, I guess, what is their audience? Is it fairly young? I feel like it's fairly young, but it also everybody watches it, right? So
I think everybody watches it. And also, guys, my grandma is down to cause some drama. I'm just saying, okay? I've had problems with her over board games at family gatherings. Like, I think we can find some grandmas out there that are ready to get down with it. But honestly, my idea for the senior show is I want to see people in their like 40s and 50s and like maybe 60s. So it's not like really senior, because I don't know if they'll actually be able to get like 70, 80-year-olds who are like, you know, ready to fall in love and are able to like go through the process. I do know from inside sources that the senior show was supposed to happen, but it got postponed due to COVID, and they had to be more careful with COVID because it's like older people they're dealing with. So, I mean, I think it could happen. It says it's on deck. There's no actual like start date or anything else. But I mean, I think that they have a lot of spin-off ideas. And I mean, hopefully we just helped if they come across this. And I think that the franchise has, you know, some more years to go. I just don't know if it will last forever.
I'm just saying, if I'm 40 or 50 and somebody is referring to me as a senior, I'm going to be really upset.
Yeah, maybe the middle-aged show would work better. But that is everything we have to share with you guys today. So comment down below your thoughts on the biggest Bachelor Nation headlines of the week. What do you guys think is going to go down at Stagecoach? Let us know. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell because we'll be back with more Bachelor Nation news soon. As always, I'm your host, Zachary Reality, joined by Gianna Gravelese and Blakely McHugh. Our social media handles are on the screen right now, so be sure to give us a follow. Come say hello, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.